Commander Vexthal's 6 eyes twitched as he read the emergency dispatch for the 3rd time. His purple tentacles coiled around the datapad, leaving small cracks in the reinforced titanium surface. The message was simple, horrifying, and absolutely impossible to believe. "They did what?" he shrieked, his voice box producing a sound that made his bridge crew wince. Several junior officers actually ducked behind their control panels. Lieutenant Creval, his second-in-command, cleared her throat nervously. "Sir, the preliminary reports confirm it. The Draconian Empire attacked a human school transport. 17 casualties. All children. The bridge fell silent except for the soft humming of life support systems. You could have heard a pin drop if pins existed in space, which they didn't, but that wasn't the point. The point was that someone had just violated the most sacred law in the known galaxy. Get me High Admiral Zorthak immediately," Vexthal commanded, his voice now deadly calm. This was worse than calm. This was the kind of calm that preceded supernovas. The holographic display flickered to life, revealing the imposing figure of the Galactic Council's supreme military commander. Zorthak's massive frame filled the screen, his battle-scarred carapace gleaming under the harsh lights of the command center. Commander, Zorthak's voice rumbled like distant thunder. "I assume you've received the reports." "Yes, sir. Please tell me this is some kind of sick joke or a training simulation, or maybe I'm having one of those dreams where I'm naked in front of the Council again." "I'm afraid not, Commander. The Draconian 7th Fleet, under the command of Admiral Nextar, intercepted a human civilian transport near the Kepler 442 system. Intelligence suggests they mistook it for a military vessel." Vexthal's laugh was bitter and sharp. "Mistook it?" "Admiral, with respect, a blind Slugarian with brain damage could tell the difference between a human school bus and a battlecruiser. Those transports are bright yellow. For crying out loud. Bright yellow. They might as well have children on board written in neon letters across the hull. Nevertheless, the attack occurred. 17 human children are dead, Commander. The youngest was 6 years old. The weight of those words settled over the bridge like a suffocating blanket. Every species in the galaxy knew the rules. There were exactly 3 universal laws that governed interstellar relations. Don't blow up inhabited planets without filing proper paperwork. Always return borrowed antimatter on time, and under absolutely no circumstances whatsoever do you harm human children. The 3rd rule wasn't just a suggestion. It was carved into the fundamental fabric of galactic society, but written in the blood of civilizations that had learned the hard way what happened when you crossed that particular line. "Sir," Vexthal said carefully, "what's the Earth Federation's response?" Zorthak's expression grew even more grim, which was quite an achievement considering his face already looked like it had been chiseled from granite by a particularly angry sculptor. "Radio silence. Complete and total radio silence. No diplomatic protests, no demands for justice, no threats of retaliation. Nothing." "Nothing?" Creval interjected, her voice squeaking slightly. "But that's impossible. Humans always respond to attacks on their territory." "Exactly," Zorthak confirmed. "When humans go quiet, Commander, that's when you should start praying to whatever deities your species holds dear. The last time humans went silent like this was during the Proxima incident." Every officer on the bridge shuddered. The Proxima incident was required reading at the Academy, filed under cautionary tales and why you should never, ever make humans angry. An entire star system had been restructured during that particular conflict. "Orders, sir?" Vexthal asked, though he already suspected what the answer would be. "Full mobilization, Commander. Every available ship, every trained crew, every weapon system we can spare. We're moving to intercept the human response fleet, to support the Draconians," Creval asked hopefully. Zorthak's laugh was dark and utterly without humor. "Support them?" "Lieutenant, we're going to try to prevent the humans from turning the Draconian home system into a new asteroid belt. Though frankly, I'm not sure we can. The transmission ended, leaving the bridge in stunned silence. Vexthal stared at the empty holographic display, his mind racing through the implications. The Draconians had just committed the ultimate taboo, and now everyone in the galaxy was about to pay the price. "Sir," Chief Navigator Plexstar spoke up from his station, "we're receiving reports from our scout ships near Earth's solar system. Multiple fleet movements, massive energy signatures," and he paused, checking his readings again. "Sir, they're mobilizing everything. Every human warship, every defense platform, every single vessel capable of faster-than-light travel." "How many ships?" Vexthal asked, though he wasn't sure he wanted to know the answer. "Current estimate, 12,000 vessels and climbing. They're pulling ships from deep space exploration missions, merchant marine conversions, even their museum fleet. 12,000 ships. The number hung in the air like a death sentence. The entire Galactic Council Navy numbered barely 8,000 vessels, and most of those were designed for peacekeeping operations, not the kind of warfare humans specialized in. "There's more, Sir," Plexstar continued, his voice barely above a whisper. "We're detecting energy signatures consistent with Project Prometheus." The blood drained from Vexthal's face, which was quite impressive considering his species had green blood. Project Prometheus was legendary, whispered about in military circles like a ghost story. It was supposedly humanity's ultimate weapon, so devastating that they'd never actually used it in combat. "Get me a secure channel to the Draconian High Command," Vexthal ordered. "Maybe we can convince them to surrender before." "Sir," Communications Officer Tralven interrupted, "we're receiving a transmission from the human fleet. It's being broadcast on all frequencies to every inhabited system in the galaxy." The main screen flickered to life, revealing the bridge of a human starship. The woman standing at the center of the screen was unremarkable by most standards, medium height, brown hair pulled back in a practical ponytail, and wearing a simple military uniform. But her eyes burned with a cold fury that made Vexthal's blood freeze. "This is Admiral Rebecca Martinez of the Earth Federation Navy," she began, her voice perfectly calm and controlled. 6 hours ago, forces of the Draconian Empire attacked a civilian transport carrying children from the colony of New Geneva. 17 innocent lives were lost." She paused, and in that moment of silence Vexthal could almost hear the collective held breath of 1 trillion beings across the galaxy. "The Draconian Empire has violated the most fundamental law of civilized space," Martinez continued. "They have spilled the blood of our children. In doing so, they have forfeited their right to exist as a spacefaring civilization." The transmission cut to tactical displays showing the human fleet in formation. Vexthal had seen many military formations in his career, but nothing like this. The human ships moved with mechanical precision, their weapon systems already powered and ready for combat. To the Draconian High Command, Martinez's voice resumed, "You have 72 hours to surrender unconditionally. All military vessels will be impounded, all weapons systems will be dismantled, and those responsible for this atrocity will be handed over for trial. These terms are non-negotiable." Another pause, longer this time. "To the Galactic Council, we appreciate your past cooperation in maintaining peace among the stars. However, this matter is now beyond diplomacy. Any attempt to interfere with our response will be considered an act of war against the Earth Federation." The transmission ended, leaving the bridge in stunned silence. Vexthal stared at the empty screen, his mind struggling to process what he'd just heard. The humans had just declared war on the Draconian Empire, the third most powerful military force in the galaxy, and simultaneously warned off the Galactic Council from interfering. "Sir," Tralven said quietly, "we're receiving reports from across the galaxy. The Draconians are mobilizing their fleets. The Centauri Republic is recalling their ambassadors. The Vegan Confederacy is closing their borders. Everyone's preparing for war." "And the Draconians?" Vexthal asked, though he already knew the answer. They're refusing to surrender, sir. Admiral Nextar is reportedly claiming the attack was justified under the rules of engagement for military targets. Vexthal's laugh was bitter and sharp. Justified? They killed children, Trollven. Human children. There's no justification in the universe for that. What are our orders, sir? Krival asked. Before Vexthal could answer, the long-range sensors began screaming warnings. Every screen on the bridge lit up with proximity alarms and energy readings that shouldn't have been possible. Report. Vexthal barked. Sir, the human fleet, they're moving faster than our calculations predicted. They've somehow increased their FTL capabilities by 300%. At current speed, they'll reach draconian space in 18 hours, not the 48 we estimated. 18 hours. Vexthal's voice cracked. That's impossible. No fleet can maintain those speeds for extended periods. Apparently, sir, no one told the humans that. The bridge fell silent again as the implications sank in. The Draconians had 72 hours to surrender, but the human fleet would arrive in 18 hours, which meant they had no intention of giving the Draconians the full time limit. Sir, Plexstar spoke up again, we're also detecting something else. The human fleet isn't just moving fast, they're growing. Ships are joining the formation from every human colony, every outpost, every hidden base we didn't even know existed. How many now? Vexthal asked weakly. 23,000 vessels and still climbing. Sir, I don't think we've ever seen the full extent of human military capabilities. They've been hiding their true strength. Of course they had. Humans always played their cards close to their chest, revealing only what they needed to maintain peace. But now, with their children dead, they were showing their true face. Get me another secure channel to High Admiral Zorthak, Vexthal ordered. We need to warn him about the accelerated timeline. The holographic display flickered to life again, but this time Zorthak's expression was even more grim than before. Commander, I assume you've seen the sensor readings. Yes, sir. The human fleet is moving faster than predicted and growing larger by the hour. What are your orders? We're not intervening, Commander. The Council has made its decision. We're pulling back to minimum safe distance and observing. If the humans want to eliminate the Draconian Empire, that's their prerogative. Sir, Vexthal couldn't hide his surprise. We're just going to let them do it. Commander, the Draconians broke the one law that every civilized species agrees on. They killed human children. As far as I'm concerned, they've signed their own death warrant. The Council's official position is that this is an internal matter between the Earth Federation and the Draconian Empire. And if the humans don't stop with the Draconians? Krival asked quietly. Zorthak's expression softened slightly. Then we pray they remember that the rest of us had nothing to do with this atrocity. Because if they decide to restructure galactic civilization, there's not a force in the universe that can stop them. The transmission ended, leaving Vexthal staring at the tactical display showing the approaching human fleet. 23,000 ships and growing, moving at impossible speeds, carrying weapons that could crack planets and the cold fury of a species whose children had been murdered. Set course for the edge of Draconian space, he ordered quietly. Maximum safe distance. We're going to watch history unfold. Sir, Trollven said hesitantly, what do you think is going to happen? Vexthal looked at the display one more time, watching as more human ships joined the growing fleet. Each vessel represented the fury of an entire species, the rage of parents who had lost their children, the determination of a civilization that had just been reminded why they were the most dangerous predators in the galaxy. I think, he said slowly, we're about to learn why the first rule of the galaxy exists. And I think the Draconians are going to regret breaking it for the rest of their very short lives. The bridge fell silent as the ship changed course, heading toward what would undoubtedly be the most one-sided conflict in galactic history. Behind them, the human fleet continued to grow, a tide of metal and fury that would soon wash over the Draconian Empire like a tsunami of righteous anger. In the depths of space, Admiral Rebecca Martinez stood on her bridge, watching the tactical displays with cold satisfaction. The fleet was assembling perfectly, each ship taking its assigned position in the formation. Soon, very soon, the galaxy would be reminded of a simple truth that the Draconians had forgotten. You don't hurt human children, ever. The consequences of forgetting that lesson were about to become very, very clear. 16 hours later, Commander Vexthal stood frozen on his bridge, watching something that defied every tactical manual ever written. The human fleet had arrived at the edge of Draconian space, and it was magnificent. Terrifying, yes, but magnificent nonetheless. "Final count, Plex Dar," he said, his voice barely above a whisper. 37,000 vessels, sir. They're arranged in a perfect sphere formation around the entire Draconian home system. Every exit vector is blocked, every trade route sealed, every possible escape route covered. Kreval let out a low whistle. "They're not planning to invade, sir. They're planning to quarantine the entire system." "No," Vexthal corrected, studying the formation more closely. "They're planning to erase it." The Draconian response had been predictably arrogant. Admiral Nextar had deployed his entire fleet, roughly 4,000 vessels, in a defensive formation around their homeworld of Dracos Prime. It was an impressive sight under normal circumstances. Unfortunately for the Draconians, these were not normal circumstances. "Sir," Trollven announced, "we're receiving a transmission from the human fleet. It's being broadcast to every ship in the system." Admiral Martinez appeared on screen again, but this time she wasn't alone. Behind her stood a group of humans wearing black uniforms that Vexthal didn't recognize. Their faces were hard, emotionless, like carved stone. "Admiral Nextar," Martinez began, her voice carrying across the void, "this is your final warning. You have committed an act of genocide against innocent children. Surrender now or face the consequences." The response came quickly. Nextar's scaled face filled the screen, his yellow eyes blazing with defiance. "Human scum, you dare threaten the mighty Draconian Empire? We are the rightful rulers of this galaxy, and we will not bow to inferior species." "Inferior?" Martinez's eyebrow raised slightly. "Admiral, you just declared war on a species that has never lost a single conflict in recorded history. Are you absolutely certain about your tactical assessment? We have fought across 100 worlds." Nextar roared, "We have conquered entire star systems. What have you humans ever accomplished?" The silence that followed was deafening. Then, slowly, Martinez smiled. It was not a pleasant expression. "What have we accomplished, Admiral? We've terraformed worlds that were considered uninhabitable. We've developed technology that your scientists claim is impossible. We've explored regions of space that your people consider cursed. And most importantly," her smile vanished, "we've learned to turn our entire civilization into a weapon when someone threatens our children." She gestured to the officers behind her. "These are the survivors, Admiral, the parents, siblings, aunts, uncles, and friends of the children you murdered. They volunteered to personally deliver our response." One of the officers stepped forward. His voice was quiet, controlled, but filled with such raw pain that even Vexthal felt his heart skip a beat. "My daughter Emma was 7 years old. She loved drawing pictures of alien creatures from the stories I told her. Her last transmission to me was a drawing of a friendly dragon because she was excited to see your world." Another officer joined him. "My son Marcus was 10. He was studying xenobiology because he wanted to help different species understand each other better." More officers stepped forward, each sharing a brief memory of the children who had died. 17 names, 17 lives, 17 reasons why the Draconian Empire was about to cease to exist. "You see," Admiral Martinez continued, "you didn't just kill our children. You killed our future diplomats, our scientists, our artists, our dreamers. You killed the very humans who would have argued for mercy when this moment came. Enough." Nextar snarled, "If you want war, humans, then you shall have it." All ships, attack formation. Show these mammals what Draconian might can accomplish. The transmission ended, and the Draconian fleet began to move. 4,000 ships, bristling with weapons, charging toward the human formation with the fury of a cornered predator. "Sir," Kreval said quietly, "shouldn't we do something? Try to mediate?" Vexthul shook his head. "No, Lieutenant. This is beyond mediation now. This is about justice." The first human response was subtle. A single ship, no larger than a frigate, detached itself from the formation and moved to intercept the Draconian charge. One ship against 4,000. Are they insane? Plexstar gasped. That's suicide. But as they watched, the lone human vessel began to change. Its hull shifted, weapons systems emerged from hidden compartments, and energy readings spiked to levels that shouldn't have been possible for a ship that size. "What in the name of the void is that thing?" Trollven whispered. The answer came in the form of a weapons discharge that lit up the entire system. The human ship fired once, a beam of energy so intense it left after images on their sensors. The beam struck the lead Draconian battleship and simply erased it. No explosion, no debris, just empty space where a massive warship had been moments before. "Impossible," Vexthul breathed. "Nothing can generate that kind of power." The human ship fired again, and another Draconian vessel vanished. Then again, each shot was precise, clinical, surgical. There was no wasted energy, no unnecessary destruction. Just cold, methodical elimination. "Sir," Plexstar's voice was shaking, "the energy signatures, they're not just using antimatter. They're using something else, something that makes antimatter look like a child's toy." The Draconian formation began to break apart as panic spread through their ranks. Ships scattered in all directions, trying to escape the impossible human weapon. But there was nowhere to run. The human fleet had surrounded the entire system. "This is Admiral Martinez to all Draconian vessels," the human commander's voice echoed across the battlefield. "You have 30 seconds to surrender, or you will be destroyed. This is your final warning." Some of the Draconian ships began to power down their weapons, their crews finally understanding the hopelessness of their situation. But Admiral Nextar's flagship continued its charge, firing every weapon it possessed at the lone human vessel. The human ship's shields flared briefly, then stabilized. The Draconian weapons had no effect whatsoever. "You want to know what we've accomplished, Admiral?" Martinez's voice was cold as the void. "We've become the monsters that monsters fear. Surrender now, or join your victims in death." "Never." Nextar's final transmission was cut short as the human weapon fired one last time. The Draconian flagship, all 3 kilometers of armored death, simply ceased to exist. The remaining Draconian vessels immediately began broadcasting surrender signals. The battle, if it could even be called that, was over. 4,000 ships had been reduced to scattered remnants in less than 10 minutes. "Sir," Kreval said softly, "what happens now?" The answer came in the form of another human transmission. This time it was being broadcast to every inhabited world in the galaxy. "This is Admiral Martinez of the Earth Federation Navy." She began, her image appearing on screens across 1,000 worlds. "The Draconian Empire has been held accountable for their crimes against innocent children. Let this serve as a reminder to all civilizations: humanity values peace, but we will not tolerate the murder of our young." She paused, looking directly into the camera. "The Draconian military has been disbanded. Their weapons technology will be confiscated. Their leaders will face trial for crimes against sentient beings. The Draconian people, however, will be allowed to rebuild their civilization under the supervision of the Galactic Council." Another pause, longer this time. "To the galaxy at large, the first rule exists for a reason. It is not a guideline, it is not a suggestion, and it is not optional. Any species that harms human children will face the same fate as the Draconian Empire. We are not conquerors, we are not expansionists, but we are absolutely ruthless in protecting our young." The transmission ended, leaving the galaxy in stunned silence. Vexthul stared at the tactical display, watching as human ships began the methodical process of securing Draconian space. It was organized, efficient, and utterly without mercy. "Sir," Trollven said quietly, "we're receiving reports from across the galaxy. Every major power is condemning the Draconian attack and pledging support for the human response. The Centauri Republic is offering to help with the trials. The Vegan Confederacy is providing humanitarian aid to Draconian civilians. Everyone's trying to get on humanity's good side." "Smart," Vexthul muttered. "Very smart." "Sir," Krival asked, "what do we do now?" Vexthul looked at the display one more time, watching as the human fleet began to disperse. Most ships were returning to their home systems, but a significant force remained behind to oversee the transition. The message was clear: humanity would enforce the peace, whether the galaxy wanted it or not. "We go home, Lieutenant," he said finally. "We file our report. We recommend that all species review their protocols regarding human civilians, and we pray that no one else is stupid enough to repeat the Draconian mistake." "And if they do?" Plexdar asked. Vexthul's laugh was bitter. "Then we'll have front row seats to another demonstration of why humans are the apex predators of the galaxy." 3 days later, Vexthul stood in the briefing room aboard the Galactic Council's flagship, delivering his report to the assembled representatives. The room was packed with delegates from every major species, all eager to understand what they had witnessed. "In conclusion," he said, reading from his notes, "the human response was swift, decisive, and completely overwhelming. They deployed weapons technology that we didn't know existed, coordinated a fleet action involving 37,000 vessels, and completely dismantled a major galactic power in less than a day." Representative Glorthak of the Regellian Collective raised a tentacle. "Commander, in your professional opinion, could the Galactic Council Navy have stopped the human fleet?" Vexthul considered the question carefully. "No, sir, not even close. Based on what I observed, the humans could have destroyed our entire fleet with a handful of ships. They've been holding back their true capabilities for decades." "But why?" asked Representative Yul Dara of the Andromedan League. "Why hide their strength?" Because Vexthul replied, they didn't want to rule the galaxy. They wanted to be part of it, but when their children were threatened, they reminded us all that participation in galactic civilization is a privilege they can revoke at any time. Admiral Zorthak stepped forward. "The Council has decided to formally codify the first rule into galactic law. Any attack on human children will now be considered an act of war against the entire Galactic Council. We will not allow another draconian incident." "With respect, sir," Vexthul said, "I don't think we need to make it law. After what happened to the Draconians, I doubt anyone will be foolish enough to test human resolve again." "Perhaps," Zorthak agreed, "but it's better to be clear about these things. The humans have shown us that they can be our greatest allies or our most terrible enemies. I, for one, prefer them as allies." The meeting continued for several hours, but Vexthul's thoughts kept returning to the image of that lone human ship, methodically erasing Draconian vessels with surgical precision. The humans had shown remarkable restraint, considering the provocation. They could have destroyed entire worlds, but they had chosen to target only military assets. Later that evening, as Vexthul sat in his quarters reviewing reports from the aftermath, he received an unexpected communication. The holographic display showed Admiral Martinez, but this time she was out of uniform, sitting in what appeared to be a modest apartment. "Commander Vexthul," she said, her voice much softer than during the battle, "I wanted to thank you for your report to the Council. It was fair and accurate." "Admiral," Vexthul replied, surprised by the personal contact, "I simply reported what I observed." "Your fleet's performance was impressive." Martinez smiled sadly. "It was necessary, Commander. Those children, they were traveling to a cultural exchange program. They were excited to meet alien species, to learn about different worlds. They died because someone decided that human children were acceptable casualties. I'm sorry for your loss, Admiral. Thank you. But I want you to understand something, Commander. What you saw wasn't humanity at war. It was humanity defending its young. There's a difference. Vexthal nodded slowly. I believe I understand, Admiral. The first rule exists not just to protect human children, but to protect the rest of us from what happens when that protection fails. Exactly. We don't want to be the monsters of the galaxy, Commander. We want to be explorers, scientists, artists, dreamers. But if someone threatens our children, we become something else entirely. The transmission ended, leaving Vexthal alone with his thoughts. Outside his viewport, the stars shone peacefully, just as they had for billions of years. But now, every civilization in the galaxy understood a fundamental truth that the Draconians had forgotten. The first rule of the galaxy wasn't just about protecting human children. It was about protecting everyone from the consequences of breaking that protection. Because when humanity's children were threatened, the species that had explored the furthest reaches of space, that had tamed hostile worlds and befriended alien races, became something far more dangerous than any weapon ever conceived. They became parents with nothing left to lose. And in a galaxy full of advanced civilizations and ancient wisdom, that was the most terrifying force of all. The story was complete. The first rule of the galaxy had been written in the blood of those who dared to break it, and every species would remember the lesson for generations to come. Some rules, after all, exist for very good reasons. Don't attack the human children, ever. The consequences of forgetting that lesson had just been demonstrated with devastating clarity.